This session had to be organized online. In the scope of this session, we're going to inform you on the activities of international city networks and how can they contribute to local administrations. For over 30 years, I've been involved with international city networks. I mean, if I start talking about their benefits, I would just go out of time. Learning from each other, sharing the experience, and promoting solidarity, organizing joint projects and programs, and being the voice of local administrations, fighting the global issues together. Well, these are just some of the benefits. So we are going to be inspired from the other good examples from overseas. And there has been an issue with my voice. Let me just briefly cover what I said in the last moment. In the scope of MARUF19, in the sessions that I moderated, all the speakers were male, but today we have 5 speakers and all of them are women. And I'm very happy to see that. The speakers are going to present their speeches in English, and then we're going to moderate the session from this point on in English as well.
Who will share information in relation to their city networks. In order of presentation, EUROCITIES, ALDA, Energy Cities, C40, and POLIS. I'll introduce each of our speakers prior to their respective presentations. We would be delighted to allocate extra time to learn more about these important networks, but due to time constraints, as you will understand, we plan together with our esteemed speakers to complete their presentations within 12 minutes each. We'll start our presentations with EUROCITIES. EUROCITIES is the leading network of major European cities, encompassing more than 200 cities in 38 countries, including Turkey. EUROCITIES continue with these activities to cover a broad range of focus areas, ranging from climate change to gender equality, from citizen engagement to smart cities. EUROCITIES network will be presented by Ms. Antonella Boni, who has been the Secretary General of EUROCITIES since June 2014. She has 25 years of professional experience in EU public affairs in the field of regional government and local government, and has successfully worked for a stronger recognition of cities' challenges within the European agenda. She continues to work towards best serving European cities as key players in the European context and centers for generating renewal and growth. She has a master's degree from the University of Bologna in political science and from the University of Leuven in European studies. Now it's my great pleasure to invite Ms. Boni, the Secretary General of EUROCITIES, to make her presentation on this all-important city network. We are all listening to you, Ms. Boni.
Wow, thank you very much. And good afternoon, everybody. I wish I could speak Turkish because I have a lot of Turkish friends, but it's impossible. But I love the language and I love the sound of it. So anyway, thank you for having invited me to represent EUROCITIES and present it. I'm honored, really, to be here, and also very happy to be here with my female, as we were saying, colleagues that represent, a variety of different European and international networks. And I like the title, actually, of this session. I've never seen such a really nice title and really spot on. Keep calm and meet globally. That's fantastic. Because it really gives the opportunity, let's say, to pass the message, especially to local authorities in this case, that actually being networked and being active in, platforms like ours is actually a necessity today. It's actually essential to, you know, build your own resilience, to understand how other, you know, realities face issues and crises like the one we are living, and so on. So it's really a nice session that you're setting up, and also with a nice title. So I will share my screen to just give the very fast presentation of the network. Do you see it? Do you see it? Yeah, okay. So basically, yeah, as you said, we connect over 200, and we have actually 204 cities across Europe. We have something like 150 that are bigger, so over 250,000 inhabitants, and another 50 that are less big, and they are across Europe, so not only the EU, but also beyond the sort of EU administrative borders, and that includes Turkey. And so we like to say that we represent more than 135 million people, because actually it's all cities that are democratically elected, and therefore, you know, when we talk to the EU, we say if you work with cities, you work also with their citizens, basically. So now, what's our vision and our mission? You mentioned it yourself at the beginning when you introduced us. So it's the leading network of major, because the majority are the big cities, working together. So this is one element, but also working with the European institutions to ensure a good quality of life in, you know, urban areas for all citizens. So it's really about, the end goal is really to improve the way in which people live in cities. So, as you said, we work on lots of areas, and we can go through them, and it's really about culture, mobility, environment, digital, and so on. And how do we do, what do we do actually in terms of activities? As I said, so it's about working together, so exchanging knowledge, transferring knowledge when it's possible, upscaling knowledge when it's possible, but anyway, a lot of knowledge sharing, but also having a permanent dialogue with the EU, the different institutions, the Commission, the Parliament, the Council, the Committee of the Regions, and others, to really demonstrate that actually, if you work with cities, the regulation and the EU framework will actually help to improve the quality of life at the local level. So that's basically our goals on your right. It's all goals that are, you know, how do you say, directed to people. So the first fall is really about, you know, those that you see, the economy, the social, the environment, the space and culture, but also two goals that are more directed to making local government fit for the future. And so if we look at them, we'll just go very quickly because I don't have much time. But the first one, it's really about covering all that has to do with the local economy, and therefore, you know, having looking at the challenges that cities face from, you know, unemployment, or creating quality jobs, or attracting, having an attractive urban area with services and so on. Looking at skills, looking at, you know, how do you say, the new trends that exist in terms of economic models and so on. So that's the first sort of goal that is, you know, that we try to achieve through those specific objectives. The other one is really about healthy living, and therefore having a place where, you know, you can breathe clean air, you can drink water, good water, you can, you know, the recycling is present, where, you know, the way in which people can move around is sustainable, where there is a reflection on how urban food systems can be actually sustainable, and so on. So this is a very important goal, which is very packed and dense, and actually some of my colleagues here today do cover this part even more in detail. Then we have, yeah, of course, the idea of the space and the culture. So how people can actually shape a city and use culture or anyway participatory, you know, mechanisms to actually create the spaces they want. And so here all the debate around proximity, about creating more green areas, also safe areas, and also how culture can be a motor and an engine for, you know, better spaces and more owned spaces by people. Of course, you have the inclusion element and the so-called social agenda that you can see very clearly. So, you know, one of the biggest challenge that the world is facing is, you know, rising inequalities and poverty. So all the work that needs to be done on housing, affordable housing, which is you know, I would say one of the biggest problems that urban areas face, the inclusion, you know, and integration of migrants, education. There's so much that you can, you know, you can do in this field, and local authorities have a lot of work to do in this, and a lot of competence anyway in that area as well, depending on the country, of course. And here it's one of the two goals that concerns, you know, local government. I mean, now there are phenomena and, you know, phenomena that are global, like climate change, like, as I said, rising inequality, like the digital transformation. Well, these are, you know, global phenomena, but where are they tackled? Where do they happen? Where do they unfold? It's at the local level, and very often by the, you know, the local authority and the city leaders that find themselves having to play a role in there, sometimes even without the right competences, or even more with the, you know, sufficient resources. So looking at all these challenges that are, you know, that needs a local government to be future fit is also very important. In this respect, how can a local government become more innovative in terms of, you know, the practices it has of, you know, doing their own policies, for instance, by applying more and stronger participatory governance mechanism, or, you know, how the administration itself can be much more innovative and creative and even be managed in a different way, or how, you know, the financial sustainability of the city is looked at in terms of public procurement, for instance, how you spend the money, because anyway, city authorities are big buyers in this respect. So can you shape the market in a more sustainable way, in a more sustainable direction? Yes, you can. So, you know, all these kind of things. And also, how do you need to change your governance at the local level to be able to face the challenges that we looked before? So, you know, in partnership with actors, with the local ecosystem, but also with citizens. And this requires, you know, a full change of mindset inside the administrations, and also, you know, in terms of politics and the way you do politics. So this is basically our vision, the services we provide. So what we do is, you know, this range insights, because we look at, you know, what are the, how do you say, you know, the sort of trends that are happening in cities, and what are the funding opportunities. It's really about looking deeper into the urban needs of cities, and, you know, the trends that affect cities. Funding is playing quite a big role in here, because of course there's a need in this respect from many cities in many countries, and to also combine what exists at the local level and the national level with the European level that makes sense. So really, for instance, trying to influence EU funding in a way that can be really supportive to, you know, cities to implement those policies that they need to face the challenges is fundamental, and this requires. This is more directed also to the EU sort of institutions, and therefore the sort of financial framework. But a lot of work has been put into the recovery plans, for instance, at this stage, and how they should be, you know, influenced by, you know, also the say of local authorities and cities. Advocacy, this is quite a big area of work on which we deliver the support to our cities. And as I said, it's a continuous, permanent dialogue with all the institutions on all the themes that you've seen, and all the sort of challenges that I've been describing till now. That means really working very closely, providing evidence, providing recommendations, ideas, and so on, and trying also to have a more systematic ear from the European Union institutions on all this, let's say, input by local governments. And of course, the networking, this is a fundamental thing. I have to say that during the pandemic, this I thought would be, you know, would be jeopardized in a way, but it hasn't actually. And it's starting again now. Let's hope the physical re-networking is back. But this is really about the added value. What I said before, a city needs to be networked if it wants to be successful as well, and if it wants to be efficient and inspiring, and have policies that are are up to the reality and not only like based on the sort of traditional way of working. And we have lots of tools in this respect. And of course, the visibility element that comes with campaigns, international events, city stories. Our website is now full of thousands of stories from cities that, for instance, just during the pandemic have told how different cities have solved or have tried to solve the different challenges lived during the crisis. How we work, we have structures like everyone else. We have communities, we have families basically that are, let's say, more sectorial, unfortunately, but we're trying to be as much transversal as possible. But that's a problem with all administrations. So in a way, we reflect the way in which administrations work. So we have the environment community, the culture community, and so on, knowledge, the digital, the social, and so on. And of course, we get also a lot of EU funding projects that help us to reinforce all the work that is done through the normal exchanges and transfer of knowledge that bring in a lot of possibilities to experiment and move forward in many areas. And this is just to give some ideas, but we don't have time, but some ideas of the things that cities are interested to work on, from education to employment, in the social affairs part, but here I think Karen will also talk a lot about mobility, but these are just a hint of what they're interested in, and and so on. This is like economic development, digital, and so on. That's it. I think our executive committee is all mayors of cities like those that you see on the screen, and our let's say team is basically made of around 60 people that are more or less all, now with COVID a bit less, but they're based in Brussels, and yeah, this is it. So it was just to give a quick overview of what we do, and I think it would be much more interesting to have a dialogue with people that want to know more rather than just blah blah talk in a monologue. Thank you very much. There's a slide for those cities that want to join. We have a few Turkish cities already, but if any of them wants to know more and wants to look at how this works and is interested, please do contact us. Thank you very much.
Well, we wholeheartedly thank you, Ms. Boni, for providing us with such a broad range of information on EUROCITIES in such a short time. Of course, needless to say, we would have very much liked to obtain further information in relation to your impressive activities, but you have provided the basic framework, including the membership aspects. And due to time constraints, I think we have immediately continue with our second speaker. The next presentation is on ALDA, the European Association for Local Democracy. Sounding like a music in our ears, ALDA is dedicated to the promotion of good governance and citizen participation at the local level. ALDA is established with the initiative of the Council of Europe, and today gathers, if I'm not mistaken, more than 350 members from, let's say, 45 countries, including Turkey. ALDA network will be presented to us by Ms. Antonella Valmorbida, who is the, I should say, driving force behind ALDA's development to this date. In fact, he developed and led ALDA as the Secretary General since its creation in 1999. She is an eminent senior expert in the field of local governance and participatory democracy at the local level. She is involved in local governance analysis, projects implementation, management, and advocacy work in the European Union and in the neighboring countries. She has numerous books and articles on decentralized cooperation, local governance, and participative and inclusive democracy. I would like to bring to the attention of our participants that she has contributed as a senior expert, if I remember correctly, in 2010-2011 to the second phase of the local government reform project, LAR2 as we call it, conducted by our Ministry of Interior. Please, Ms. Valmorbida, we are ready and impatient to listen to you.
Thank you. I'm still involved in LAR3, so I'm still around in Turkey. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm very happy to share with you the work of ALDA, the European Association for Local Democracy, and to say how much it is, as Annalisa mentioned, to liaise and to be a network today. In order to do so, I'll use a PowerPoint presentation that I'm trying to share right now. Here it comes. Right, okay. Yes, and for ALDA, Turkey is very much present these days, since we are about also to open a new local democracy agency in Edremit in the Izmir area in the upcoming months. And somehow things are developing together with our members in Turkey. We have quite a few. And we see that there is really a wish to empower local governance and local communities. So I started ALDA, as you said, more than 20 years ago. I thought to spend a couple of weeks on this, and already 25 years has passed. So this is how life goes. So ALDA has been a story which has developed with communities, starting first with the support of the Council of Europe, as you said, Sadun. We started with a project called Local Democracy Agency, actually the one that we are opening in Edremit in 15 days' time. And our idea was to have European communities supporting communities in the Balkans after the war. So ALDA was built as a community-to-community decentralized cooperation, which remained very much also the sense of our work, what we do in the international cooperation. Then at the end of the 90s, the Council of Europe created ALDA in order to also have an association. It was not only a project, but an association of members. And we open up also to local authorities and to civil society. And now, as you said, we are celebrating our 20th anniversary. Those are some of the figures which shows the way that ALDA is working, because we are working through projects a lot. So we are mainly working with our members, with our partners, to generate projects of good local governance. So those are those elements show that in these last years we have managed more than in these last 20 years more than 450 projects, and with more than 40 million euros. And the importance for us is that our members are mainly benefiting from these resources, since we are passing to our members, local authorities and civil society, more than 55% of our resources. We work through many many lines of actions, because for us, local democracy and good local governance is empowerment of local authorities and empowerment of civil society. So this is our specificity. We work through the decentralized system of empowered local authorities. So how do they should work? And this is why we are also working in Turkey to empower, to strengthen local authorities, to be elected, to be inclusive and to work properly, and to have a counterpart which is also a strong civil society. Therefore, we are in our members this mixed representation. So we have local authorities and civil society. As we said, we have local democracy agencies, 15 of them and soon 16, with 16 with Turkey included in our network. We work in 54 countries, and we have touched and involved millions of people in our activities. We are at the center or being part of many networks, and some of them are online today, because we think that working together, coordinating together is really the essence of an impact, and being able to really reach our mission, which is good local governance. Those are the 4 pillars of our activities. I can imagine currently ALDA is implementing 60 projects, so 60. It's a very big task. Some of them are small, some of them are big, and we implement them in the EU, in Eastern Europe, in the Balkans, in the Mediterranean, and in Turkey too. So our pillars are local democracy in the world. We consider that local democracy is a key for sustainable democracy and sustainable economic development. So this is our message. Local democracy and local development are interlinked. We are working in what we call a better world one by one. It means that we are working on people commitment through local authorities, but also civil society. And in this, we are empowering our work in localization of the Sustainable Development Goals with local authorities and civil society. We also work on advocacy, because we develop a lot of projects, but because of them, we know a lot. So we are trying to have strong messages towards the decision makers, national, European, and worldwide level. And we are also embedded in changing Europe. Like today, we are part of this conference for the future of Europe, and we are also positioning our message for a better Europe, a stronger Europe in the future. So of course, this is the part of the message that I will share. So of course, this pandemic and this situation, of course, we had to stay calm. It wasn't easy for a network, because the essence of ALDA work is to let the people work together, both local authorities, civil society, but we have 5 offices around, we have 45 people working for ALDA, plus 15 local democracy agency, and traveling, meeting, engaging is the essence of our work. So we had to stay calm and to understand how to move things forward. Fortunately, now we are able to travel and to reconnect, which is so important. But there are also challenges, because today local authorities and local communities are under pressure. They have stressed resources. They have to make choices about how they are going to use their resources, and we can feel that there is a big stress also in the local communities. New needs are coming, because you have new needs in the communities. You don't only have unemployment, but the communities are also affected by certainly some of the questions that are raised today, like problem of the environment, of the waste management, of the problem of movement of population and migration and demography. So new needs are coming, and local communities are impacted by global problems. So ALDA is very much into this, because while we do localization of SDGs, it means that local communities, even small or medium ones, they are terminals of big problems, which are the global ones. So we see those new needs coming. We see that distances are increasing the difficulties of managing the network. We saw how it was difficult. It was difficult to strategize, difficult to negotiate. We have, as a matter of fact, also issues about how to make clear the sense of our network, and because when you meet and share lives, it's much more easier to be engaged. When the screen is something which is an alternative, but this is not, as a matter of fact, the reality. So we had problems in managing the network. And of course, to my view, and all my colleagues online today, they know that advocacy and policy making is much more difficult in this present situation when you don't meet, because you don't know. And information and the real, robust information is hard to be found online or hard to be shared online, even though there are, of course, digitalization also open new possibilities to have some more information. But in terms of negotiation and really knowing the whole scenario and the whole spectrum of information that you have to have when you do advocacy and policy making, it has been more complicated. So as we said, and I'm going to conclude now, I'm at the end of my 10 minutes, I think that there is an immense need of networks. So we saw the damage of isolation, and maybe we are going to feel in our own communities, in the local government structures and the communities where we work. We start seeing the damage of this isolation. ALDA has members in every corner of Europe and beyond, in Eastern Europe, in Turkey, in the Maghreb areas, and we see how they suffered from isolation. So we need networks, we need to be together, we need to discuss our best practices and our options. There is a need of multi-stakeholder approach, which is, I think, what we are proposing. So local governments and civil society working together, and there is a need of human interaction. So we are really at the center of this, and we hope that some of those who are listening there will be able to join soon ALDA. So I think I had a slide with my contacts, and how it's not there. The ALDA's contacts, here we are. So yes, this is when you become member of ALDA, you can have information, you can have visibility, you can have access to international networks, you can be part of our projects and share our own resources. And so we hope that you can join and be part of our community. And here there is a nice map where we are present with all these colored countries where we are present with our members, LDAs, local democracy agencies, and more. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Antonella, for depicting such a clear and broad picture of ALDA in such a short time. I would like to bring to the attention of our online participants that the Union of Marmara Municipalities, as far as I know, it's a member of ALDA. They will be very much supportive to the online participants who would like to follow up on the information that you have provided on how to join ALDA. Of course, there is so much that needs to be said, but time pressure compels us again to move on to our next presentation. Next in line is EUROCITIES, which brings together several hundred representatives of local authorities from 30 countries in Europe, including Turkey, around the theme of energy transition. If I remember correctly, EUROCITIES is also the founding partner and the main supporter of EU Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy Initiative, which brings together thousands of local governments committed to implementing EU climate and energy objectives. EUROCITIES will be presented to us by Ms. Floriane Cappelletti, who is in charge of the communications and overall coordination of this network. She is the lead of the communication activities and is an essential part, I should say, of the communications team, which holds collective responsibility for the smooth running of the association. She has started to work in EUROCITIES back in 2010 as a trainee, if I know correctly, and has been part of the communication team since then. And in 2015, she became the communications manager for the Covenant of Mayors that I've been talking about, the European office, where she is responsible for the communication strategy development, coordination of the team, production of communication tools, events, media relations, and etc. The floor or I should say rather microphone is yours, Ms. Cappelletti, please.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you. And indeed, you rightfully pointed out the Covenant of Mayors, because I think at some point, Energy City has been working with each and every networks that are there today, notably as part of the EU Covenant of Mayors. This is really great that you mentioned that. So of course, I have a short presentation to introduce you to Energy Cities. I hope you can all see it properly. So if not, just say it, of course. So Energy Cities, we are the learning community for future-proof cities. Practically speaking, we are a non-profit association of local governments and local energy agencies in majority. We also have some other types of members, and we represent around 1,000 municipalities across Europe and a bit beyond, as you can see on the map. And you can also see that we already have a few members in Turkey, actually. We even, if I'm not mistaken, we held our annual conference a few years ago in Bornova. So in practice, how do we provide support to local energy and climate actions? We do so through 4 main tasks, I would say. The first one being the design and implementation of funded projects, in which the partners are municipalities and public institutions, academia, the private sector, on topics like a very wide range of topics, actually, such as energy poverty, heating and cooling, citizen engagement, the renovation of buildings, and they are all funded under programs such as Horizon 2020, the LIFE program, OIKI, funded by the European Climate Foundation. We've got some service contracts too. And right below, you can see some of the projects in which we are involved. We currently have, I think, 30 projects ongoing. So I can't put them all there, but you can find more information on our website at energycities.eu. And so, well, as it was rightfully pointed out, we are part of the Covenant of Mayors. Actually, together with EUROCITIES, we are in the European office with other networks of local governments. And the Marmara Union of Municipalities is actually an official coordinator of the Covenant of Mayors in Turkey. And the second main task that we carry on to provide support to local energy and climate actions is policy work and advocacy. As it was already mentioned in the previous presentations, this is such an important task because we need to allow the local level to have an enabling framework to do whatever they have to do to deliver what they have to deliver. I mean, if the national and international framework does not allow cities to just take action to build a better future, this can never work. So we do that through, we have a dedicated team working on policy analysis, briefs. We, of course, organize bilateral meetings with EU officials, elected representatives, and we are part of some working groups. So as the Coalition for Energy Savings, the Community Power Coalition, and the European Forum for Renewable Energy Sources. So you can see there on the slide, actually, that I've put an example of one of our latest policy brief, which was about matching the just transition ambitions with competition rules. The third main tasks for which we provide support to cities is capacity building and knowledge sharing, which is really at the core of our missions. And this is what makes sense to us, really to learn, to be a platform for cities to learn from each other. And so we provide information watch. We have 2 people there entirely dedicated to watching information for you on key policy issues, funding and opportunities, and local actions and experimentations that they share with our members on a weekly basis. We also, of course, dedicate a lot of time to practice sharing through peer-to-peer activities, tailor-made study visits, events such as webinars, of course, very, very used to that now. And we publish guides and reports such as the one that you can see on screen that we recently published about EU funding opportunities. So really what cities and municipalities, how they can get their local actions funded through a European program. And the fourth aspect of our work is, of course, to provide visibility to local actions. So we do so through a wide range of communication tools, such as, of course, our website, newsletters, our social media. We have a podcast now. And we provide media exposure opportunities to our members. And I put there just one of our recent actions. Actually, we had a partnership with a magazine called Revolve, which is a European magazine dedicated to energy and climate. And we built up with them a photo essay with really photos provided by our members about their local climate actions. So we do have a board of directors, which is composed of representatives from our member cities. There are 11. They are currently under the presidency of the city of Heidelberg. And so they are really like steering the activities in the sense that they provide the orientations to the team. We have regular board meetings. This picture was actually took just yesterday in a board meeting in Brussels, where we organized a meeting between Matthew Baldwin, that you can see almost in the middle of the picture, and our board members. And so Matthew Baldwin is the EU official in charge of the Climate Neutral Cities initiative. So we had very great discussions with him yesterday, and it's, I mean, one of the things that makes more sense for us, just to connect directly cities to EU officials or national officials that can really help them advance their local and energy actions. And so, of course, behind the scenes, I would say we have a team dedicated to shaping all the activities that I just described. We are around 30 at the moment, I think, and mostly spread out between two offices, one in France and one in Brussels, where, half, I would say it's spread out half and half, and some people are working from Germany. And so how can you join EUROCITIES? Well, first of all, we welcome any local government, local energy agencies, and we also do welcome regional governments or networks, actually, of cities, associations that can join us as what we call collective members. This is actually the case of some of the networks that are here today. So we are members of one another also, because it makes so much more sense to work together and not in competition, contrary to what you could think. We do have an annual membership fee, which is comprised between 650 and 2,500 euros a year, so depending on the country where the city is based and the size of the city. So any information related to how you can join can be found on our website, EUROCITIES.eu, at the address that you can see now. And of course, I'll be glad to answer any question. You can find the contact of any staff member of EUROCITIES on our website. So please feel free to reach out, and we'll be really glad to give you more information about our network. Thank you very much.
Ms. Cappelletti, we are really grateful for your presentation and for the valuable information that you have provided on EUROCITIES. I do believe that, as in other networks, many cities or local authority representatives will be contacting you afterwards to obtain further information on your network. And as you are the communications director, many people will be contacting directly you in that respect. Once again, so much that needs to be said, but our time is getting shorter, but we are on track as far as I can see, perhaps even for questions. In the next presentation of our session, we shall focus on C40, Cities and Climate Leadership Group. C40 is a network of the world's mega cities committed to addressing climate change. Again, as far as I remember, it was 97 when I last heard of. 97 of the world's greatest cities, including Istanbul, by the way, that comprise C4 are committed to delivering, in particular, the goals of the celebrated Paris Agreement at the local level and leading the way towards a healthier and more sustainable future, I should say. This network will be presented to us by Ms. Júlia López Ventura, who has been working in the C40 regional director, working as the C40's regional director for Europe since 2015, if I remember correctly from my notes. Before joining C40, she worked for over a decade for the city of Barcelona, helping the city to develop a collaborative relationship with international institutions. And in this process, she has successfully led Barcelona to its first European Innovation Capital Award. Congratulations for that again. And she has lectured in several universities in Barcelona and Madrid with courses on city strategy and governance. Her current role within C40 as the regional director for Europe focuses on supporting the top political decision makers in raising awareness on the importance of urban sustainability and developing programs for fighting climate change in the largest European cities. She is also responsible for the coordination and engagement of C40 cities in city diplomacy work, campaigns, communications, and pertinent events. Now it's my great pleasure to invite Ms. Ventura to the microphone to inform us about the C40 network. Please, Ms. Ventura.
Sadun Bey, it's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much to the organizers of this MARUF conference. And I have to tell you all before starting my presentation that I'm absolutely thrilled to be joining an all-female panel. I hope that we can repeat this more often. And I've heard many encouraging messages from my colleagues, and I would like to just echo one of them. I think that the spirit that has always guided our relationship has been a cooperation one. Even if sometimes the public might think that we are competing, that's not the case at all, and this is a proof of it. I have also prepared a set of slides, so if you bear with me, I'm going to share my screen. Here. Okay, hopefully you can now see my screen. Thank you for confirming. I will try to be quick and concise as my other colleagues have been and respecting the time. As Mr. Sadun has mentioned, C40 is an organization that fights against climate change, and we support the biggest municipalities, the megacities of the world against this endeavor. We have a president, currently the mayor of Los Angeles, Mr. Eric Garcetti. C40 is quite a young organization compared to the other organizations and networks that have presented today. C40 was founded by the former mayor of London, Mr. Ken Livingstone, back in 2005. So that's around 16 years ago. Much has changed in C40 and globally when it comes to climate change and to the situation where we are today. Just a note on something that Mr. Sadun already mentioned. We are a global organization. I'm responsible for one of the 7 regions in which we divide the world. We have indeed 97 members spread all over, including the city of Istanbul, our only Turkish member currently. I am quite proud to say that we did a few years back achieved a balance between our global north and global south members. Altogether, these 97 municipalities represent more than 600 million inhabitants and around 25% of the global GDP. Which brings me to my next slide. No? Why cities? C40 was created, as I said, in the year 2005, guided by the spirit of connecting cities globally to create a voice for the cities that were responsible for the majority of the global greenhouse gas emissions, but that found it hard to have their voices heard at the platforms, in many cases, international platforms where the nation states, their nation states, were making decisions that were directly impacting on their decision makings or their competences, their budgets, without taking them or fully taking their opinions into account. This is the spirit that guided the foundation of C40 in 2005 and the spirit that guides most of our work currently. Much has happened since 2005. And one of the things that have impacted our work has also been mentioned by my peer colleagues in this session. COVID-19 has been a game changer. I'm sure that, that all of us, not only in the networks, but everyone listening to our session today has seen one way or the other the life, the work affected. In the case of C40 and the cities that we work with, this has been no different. And in fact, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, a tremendous, terrible health pandemic, health crisis that has seen other crises coming out. We are currently living in an intersection of different crises all coming together. Not only the COVID-19 health crisis, but also a deep economical crisis, a social crisis, if you allow me to say so. And even this has deepened the terrible climate crisis that we are already facing. One positive aspect of the COVID-19 has been the need to work in one solution that tackles all these crises at the same time, and therefore putting climate change at the core and heart of the agendas of our decision makers. In Europe, and my peer colleagues from the network working in Europe, I think that we can all say that we are fortunate having the guidance from the EU Green Deal and the Next Generation EU. This is not necessarily the case in other regions. Therefore, what we have proposed in C40 is what you can see on your screens right now, guiding our work in the next years to come under a set of principles that bring us all to a green and just recovery, and that are founded on the principles of what we call a global Green New Deal, inspired also by the work done in Europe under the umbrella of the EU Green Deal. As I said in the beginning, cities are responsible for the majority of the greenhouse gas emissions globally, but they can also be the solution. Again, if you allow me, I would like to talk about COVID-19 crisis. We've seen an unprecedented challenge in our cities, and our cities have actively and quickly acted to protect the health of their citizens. And I'm going to briefly speak about some examples at the end of my slides about this. One thing that I would like to highlight, and thank you for mentioning that I was a city official for 10 years before joining C40. I think that this is the case of many of the colleagues in this session as well. No? I would like to highlight one thing that guides the work that we do with C40 Cities. We are a membership organization. We are a climate leadership organization. This is the full name of the organization, C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group. And hence, we require that our members also commit to the highest possible ambition when it comes to climate change. The C40 leadership standards that you can see in your screen described in a very high level are the minimum ambition that we require our member cities to keep their membership. We do not charge membership fees to our members, to our cities, but we request that our mayors, our cities commit, as I said, to the highest ambitious possible. And this has to be guided by science. We cannot allow politics to play a nasty role in this. Climate change has to be a political, and as I say this, I'm also conscious of how challenging this can be. We need to have science at the core of any decision made in our cities when it comes to climate change. And hence, we have taken the Paris Agreement and the different guidance that we receive from the scientists of the IPCC, UN's scientific panel, intergovernmental panel for climate change, guiding the work that we do with our cities. Of course, we also have what we call political declarations, which is a way. I was listening to the colleague from EUROCITIES. She works in comms. I'm sure that she will understand, same as the other colleagues here, how important the visibility is to put the mayor's agenda in the quite crowded media space. No? For this, we have what we call the political commitments. So this is an opportunity for mayors to commit to different sectors that are responsible for climate change and to specific targets, specific commitments, many times reflecting also the political ambition of each mayor. You can see here an example of 5 political declarations that we have launched in the last few years. As I said, I wanted to be concise and short. I've tried to give you in the first slides a glimpse of what is C40, the principles and axes that guide our work. I would like to now give you actually 5 examples quite quickly because we are running out of time, and I would really like to have some time for question and answers from the audience of the work that we've been doing with our cities. And I could not start by any other city. It had to be Istanbul, of course, who is a city that is an active member in one of our technical working groups working on cycling and walking. Not only this, I'm highlighting here the work that we've been doing with Istanbul on their attempts to fight pollution. But also I would like to highlight, I believe today, one of the city officials of Istanbul that has been working very closely with us, the Director General for Environment, has announced also that they have achieved the first international, they have achieved having a greenhouse gas emissions inventory that aligns with an international standard. And I would like to congratulate the city of Istanbul for this achievement in this session, if you allow me. Madrid, the city where I'm based, another example. Madrid is one of the cities that has competed in Reinventing Cities. This is a competition, a sustainable architecture competition that we have promoted in the last years. And this is, I have chosen this project because this is one of the projects that is also open to non-C40 cities. So any city that is listening to us and is interested in learning more from this competition and is interested in participating, I invite you to please contact me or my colleagues directly. I have chosen in the slide, you can see a picture. This is a picture of a project that's called the Klesa project. Klesa was an old milk factory that has whose site that has been has been not used for the last more than 10 years, has been put as one of the sites of this architectural competition. And you can see in the picture what the winning project will look like in a few years' time. I'd like to highlight the work of Amsterdam, as they have been one of the pioneering cities, not only in Europe, but also globally, in challenging the, I'll try to be not politically incorrect, in challenging the way that our cities have been growing by putting the planetary boundaries at the heart of their economic growth. If you have not done so, I I invite you to check their latest circular economy plan that was launched by the mayor and the deputy mayor 1 year ago. And that has also inspired the work of a pilot that we have started with a member city called Thriving Cities, based on the concept of respecting natural resources and planetary boundaries, and challenging the belief that any economic growth has to go accompanied by an increase of greenhouse gas emissions. This doesn't have to be the case, and we are convinced that this has to be the axis of our work for the next years to come. Two more examples quickly, please, if we have some time. Milan, I would like to highlight the work that the city of Milan has been doing to reduce emissions coming from food. And Milan is, as you know, the leading city of a very important political commitment called the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. They have been doing a fantastic job in their city to reduce CO2 emissions from school meals in the last 5 years. The last example that I would like to use is Bogotá's Barrios Vitales, Vital Neighborhoods, which is a plan that was developed quickly, a fantastic plan by the city of Bogota during COVID-19, reclaiming public space from private vehicles and giving it back to citizens, to pedestrians, to people that were using the bicycle as a means of transportation, and hence protecting their health and protecting the physical distance that was very much needed during the COVID-19. I hope I have not been speaking for too long. This is my last slide. I would like to reiterate that C40 is open to have conversation as well with cities that are not currently members of C40. We have a set of opportunities like the project that I presented earlier, Reinventing Cities, that is also open to non-members. Anyone interested, please contact myself. Thank you very much.
Well, we also express our utmost thanks to Ms. Ventura for getting us acquainted with C40 network in such a short time. Apparently, other cities will be following Istanbul's example, particularly those with millions of population, to pursue the principles and other very good sounding information that's provided by Ms. Ventura in the near future. We are really looking forward to supporting this network, particularly by our largest cities. Now, we are nearing the completion of our session, but last but not least, the final presentation in our session will be informed about the POLIS network. POLIS is the leading European network of cities and regions on urban transport innovation, if I managed to put it correctly. Its members work together to develop and deploy sustainable and innovative urban mobility solutions for the city of today and tomorrow. In order to support the increasing outreach of this network, the POLIS Global Platform was launched, if I remember correctly, in 2015. And this platform continues to address global transport challenges, just thinking out loud, like climate change, air pollution, road safety, congestion, accessibility, and etc. Our next speaker, Ms. Karen Vancluysen, worked prior to joining POLIS as a network manager at Access EUROCITIES and as a project manager in Langzaam Verkeer, a Belgian Center for Mobility Management. She has been involved in European urban transport networking and policy activities and EU research and innovation projects on urban mobility topics. Needless to say, she has been a speaker and moderator at many high-level events in Europe and beyond on a broad range of urban mobility themes. After having been the network's research director for 8 years, Ms. Vancluysen was appointed as Secretary General of POLIS in September 2014. Ms. Vancluysen, it's my great pleasure to invite you to the microphone. Please.
Thank you very much, and good to see you all. Indeed, my colleagues from different networks, and thank you also for inviting me to be part of this beautiful session. So I'll be telling you a little bit more about the POLIS network indeed, not to be confused with the police, which I understand is something that might happen in a Turkish context.
Yes.
But so we are indeed also a European cities and regions network, specifically focused in this case on sustainable urban mobility. So if we would have to summarize our activities in one slide, this would be the slide. And I think in terms of the types of activities that we have and offer, it's very comparable also to what my colleagues have been sharing. So at the heart, of course, of all what we do with our networks is this peer-to-peer exchange, which over the past year and a half has proven to be even more important than it already was before, as we really had no roadmap to follow for the crisis that we have been facing. But also policy and advocacy is very important, representing the interests of our member cities and regions towards the institutions, but also to other stakeholders, for example, from the research and industry sector, which is important because we also engage in a lot of research and innovation activities, specifically in the field of urban mobility. We are currently a network with close to 100. We celebrate that when we get there, cities, regions, and related entities, mostly from Europe, and of different sizes, from smaller and medium-sized cities up to large metropolitan areas, regions, provinces, etc. So quite a diverse but very interesting group of public authorities dealing with urban transport-related matters. So at the heart of our activities is this innovation angle and the focus specifically on sustainable urban mobility. And in terms of membership, you see an overview here of the different members that we have. And as was mentioned by our moderator, we also have the POLIS Global platform, where we position POLIS more internationally beyond the EU framework on the different topics that we share across the globe in terms of urban transport-related challenges. It's perfectly possible as well for Turkish cities to become full members of our network. So we would be very happy to welcome some of you after this meeting. So what is the starting point of our network? Obviously, we see that within the field of urban mobility, there are a number of challenges that our cities and regions are facing, and that very much also shape the policy goals that they have in the urban transport field. Obviously, there is a tremendous challenge of air pollution, which leads cities to develop policies that lead towards an improvement of air quality in our cities, as there is a tremendous health impact as well. There's the spatial pollution as well that you can see on the second picture in terms of congestion and the drastic need for modal shift away from the private car use in our urban cores. So behavioral change is at the heart of these kind of modal shift policies. Then there is a challenge when it comes to road safety that is also killing millions of people on our roads every year. So a crisis we should not be forgetting about, and which is very much shaping the policies of our cities as well, in terms of particularly protecting the vulnerable road users. And finally, there's the global challenge we all are facing and have to address also on the local level, and that is climate change and the need for the decarbonization of the transport sector. So this is very much at the heart of the discussions that we have within the POLIS network when it comes to sustainable urban mobility. And then there is the innovation angle. So we very strongly believe in an important role, in a powerful role for public authorities when it comes to the governance of innovation. Because the industry is bringing us many solutions with great promises, but whether or not these new solutions are delivering on those great promises will very much be linked to how well these solutions are being regulated by the public sector. Because what needs to happen and what does not happen automatically is for those new technologies, for those innovations to be aligned with public policy goals. And we've seen that some of these innovations can also turn into disruptions and can even undermine public policy goals. So that's why we strongly work on the governance of innovation and try to raise awareness also with our cities that the fear of missing out is never a good reason to engage in a certain new technology or solution, but rather that you need to look at the problems you face and then see which technologies or innovations actually indeed are solutions. So that means maximizing opportunities of new solutions, but also mitigating possible negative externalities, which requires policies which combine carrots and sticks, so incentives and disincentives. So I think we can all agree that there is a need for a strong public sector oversight. And if you want to innovate, that you also need to regulate. An important tool that we promote together with the European Commission to make that happen is definitely the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, and many recommendations for using that tool are available as well to cities so that they can introduce, develop and deploy these plans and have integrated long-term visions for sustainable urban mobility that go beyond election cycles and also reach out to different sectors as well as involve citizens from day zero, basically. So coming back to POLIS, we have structured the urban mobility field into 5 thematic pillars, as we call them: environment and health, traffic efficiency, access, road safety and security, and governance and integration. And within each of these thematic pillars, we also have several working groups that are active, where indeed our cities and regions can talk to each other, learn from each other, both each other's successes as well as mistakes, which can be just as informative, I would say. So just to name a few examples, we talk about active travel, cycling and walking and the link with health. We talk about clean vehicles, electrification. We talk about data. We talk about automation, mobility as a service, inclusion, equity, access, public transport, safety, security, city logistics and urban freight. So a diverse range of topics that are being discussed between the colleagues from the different cities. Like many of the networks, we kind of had to reinvent ourselves over the past year and a half. And while I fully agree with my colleagues that there's nothing that can replace that real life human interaction that is so important for our networks, at the same time, we also saw that taking our services online allowed us to reach out to an even bigger group of city representatives within our membership, in addition to the happy few who were always allowed to travel in the past. So that was also definitely very informative, and we'll definitely also be building on this legacy by combining online and on-site meetings in the future. And these are just a couple of examples of the activities we have been organizing recently. As you can see, how to deal with COVID from a mobility perspective was one of them. And currently we have a series running, which is looking at the recovery of public transport, which has really suffered tremendously during the current crisis. So what we also offer our members is the opportunity to engage in European funded projects and innovation activities, which is also something that Turkish cities are eligible for. So we try to lower the threshold for them to become involved. We match them with industry and research partners who are turning to POLIS because they're looking for certain cities and regions with a certain profile to engage as living labs, as pilot sites, and to trial new solutions. And an important dimension, again, in this research and innovation sphere is, of course, this best practice exchange as well between cities and regions from different parts of Europe. Then the advocacy and policy dimension includes the POLIS political group, which is bringing deputy mayors and regional ministers in charge of transport together. Of course, we also represent the interests of our members towards the European institutions in consultations, the different entities such as the Commission, the Parliament, the Committee of the Regions, etc., are important interlocutors for us when it comes to issues that deal with mobility. But also we publish position papers that not only target the European institutions, but also the industry, for example, in terms of what we think the role should be of cities and regions when it comes to deploying innovation and adopting solutions coming from that private sector. And also we are heavily involved in the European Road Transport Research Advisory Council, which is advising the European Commission on funding priorities in the field of urban mobility. So these are just some examples of papers that we have been publishing over the past years, and where we really focus and zoom in on the role of cities and regions with regards to specific innovation areas or policy priorities. Then if you would like to become a POLIS member, you find all the information on the POLIS website, and I would invite you to have a closer look there. And as I said, Turkish cities and regions are fully eligible for joining our community. And before I conclude my presentation, let me also warmly invite you to join the POLIS conference, which is taking place on the 1st and the 2nd of December in the city of Gothenburg, which is the current POLIS president, and where we will be sharing all kinds of innovations and good practice from our cities and regions, but also from the private sector in the field of urban mobility And those 2 days would give you an excellent opportunity to reach out to your colleagues and learn from them as well, but also to share your own good practice, of course. So let me conclude by also sharing my contact details and happy to answer any questions there might be as well. Thank you for your attention.
Again, we'd like to express our utmost thanks and appreciation to our last speaker, Ms. Vancluysen, for providing valuable information on POLIS. I am confident that the POLIS network will be embraced with great interest by our local authorities in the aftermath of your presentation in our session. I believe that the POLIS network really deserves much more attention on the side of our local authorities, and in the very near future, I'm sure that new members will be joining in to POLIS from Turkey. We have thus concluded the presentations on EUROCITIES, ALDA, Energy Cities, C40, and POLIS networks. We are getting to the end of our session, but we still have a few more minutes. I couldn't see any questions yet, so I'd like to turn to our speakers again. In the light of the presentations provided by our other esteemed speakers, perhaps you would like to add a comment or an additional information. So I'll get back to our first speaker, Ms. Boni, on EUROCITIES, to ask whether she has final remarks before we close our session.
Okay, I didn't have the time to dwell on it, but like that's just very in the heat of the moment, as they say. One thing I would say is that during COVID, we have, as I said, managed to collect, 1,000 stories, or in terms of measures that were put in place during those, over a year, so many months. In terms of the emergency, how the emergency was tackled, but also in terms of recovery strategies and ideas and ways in which cities decided to take the opportunities, that COVID in the end had created to, start working on different models for urban development. And so maybe that for Turkish cities that are interested in that it's an open platform where they can go and look and see how so many cities across Europe have dealt with this unprecedented crisis in so many areas. I mean, all the areas that you've seen that we cover have been, filled up with stories in all this, of this period. So that's something that would give them the flavor of what can be done if you work with other cities in the framework of networks. And like EUROCITIES has done it, the other networks as well. So I think really, again, it's about making local authorities understand that it has become essential, and it's a real added value to be part of these tools, of these movements, because they are both political movements that, even go beyond the differences in politics and political views. They unite people in terms of, and you say thinking of how to make the life of citizens in the end better, and making sure that the other levels of government, especially the national and the European, but also the international, the global ones, do really understand that it's working bottom up and working with the local level is really the way forward. And so as mayors or as representative of local authorities, those even Turkish cities would be, I think, benefiting very much in working in our networks, one or the other. I mean, not a problem, and push forward, their transformation. Ideas. They can find really a lot of inspiration and support, and I think that is very important.
Thank you very much. Ms. Valmorbida this time. And also, please, if you can, just to say a few words on one of the questions that emerged subsequently on how the sustainability of these networks would be achieved, and how learning from each other really realizes from these networks in that respect to complement other activities.
I think that we can say that sustainability depends from programs, from the availability of the European Commission to support us or not, or what kind of other grant makers could be available, like the UNDP or others. But at the end of the day, the sustainability of organizations like ours stays in the fact that we are proposing something which is useful.
Thank you.
So at the end of the day, if you don't have if you have an organization which is not useful to the members and which has no interest for the stakeholders, then there is no sustainability. Then of course you need to be able to shape programs which are responding to this need. You need to be structured in a way that you match the donors, you match the European program or others. But at the end of the day, I think that sustainability stays in the fact that we are, and or those who are online today, responding to local needs.
Thank you very much, Ms. Valmorbida.
That's the point, yes.
Sorry. As we are getting towards the end, our final minutes, again, going around, Ms. Cappelletti, please, your final remarks.
Yeah, well, just maybe to rebound of what just been said, I would have given a similar answer, and this is really something that means a lot for networks such as ours, like to stay relevant for cities, for municipalities, and this is probably what makes sense in our work, but also one of the biggest challenges in our work. I would say it's really both-sided, and it does require a lot of ground grasping. I would say we need also to be really anchored into what's happening at local level, and to never lose never lose the sight of cities and what's happening there, because well, we're all sometimes caught in the middle of many things that we have to do, and the events we organize and the publications we want to deliver, and sometimes we kind of forget to really grasp what's happening on the ground for cities, and that's the most important. So yeah, I can only agree with what's been said before, and I want to thank you again very much. I think the event was very well organized, and I was very happy to be there with this whole panel of female speakers with those great networks we've all been cooperating with lately. So thank you very much.
We thank you very much. Ms. Ventura, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sadun. And I have to tell you that I absolutely love that you use my second surname, because it's my mother's one, so I love it. I think I don't want to repeat what other colleagues have said. I want to say that I'm in full agreement with everything that they just said. The future of our networks is heavily dependent on us keeping inspiring cities and mayors, and being able to respond to what they request, which seems obvious, but in practical terms, it's more challenging than it sounds. And especially with organizations like mine, or maybe some will agree with me in this session, that have become big. We need to keep listening to our member cities, to our mayors, to our deputy mayors, to our city officials, and giving them what can inspire, what makes them thrive. And I would like to finish with something that I always found particularly fun, but also completely true. One of the mayors that we work with when I joined the C40 in 2015 was the mayor of London, Mr. Boris Johnson. I'm sure that it rings a bell for everyone. So Mayor Johnson said something that I found brilliant. He said, no, I love working at C40 because I can steal ideas from other cities. And this is the spirit, no? He found inspiration, and this is what we need to keep giving our member cities.
Thank you very much. Then we have only 3 minutes, so I'll ask Ms. Vancluysen for the final remarks. Then we shall close the session.
Thank you. I think what we all have in common with our networks is that we want to empower our cities and regions. And this is something that sometimes they also need assistance and support for, because you see that in some cases the national level is rather than empowering them, holding them back, for example. So we need to also make that voice of cities and regions heard, and to show that the big transformation that is ahead of us, not just in transportation, but in many other policy areas, that transformation is essentially going to happen on the local and regional level, and that we need to provide all the support we can give to cities. What is appreciated when it comes to POLIS in particular is that we are very action-oriented. So we work with the practitioners on a daily basis, the people implementing measures on the ground. So not just with the politicians, but also with those who actually do the work and roll out the very concrete solutions. And that's also appreciated. And what we also pay particular attention to is that large group in Europe of smaller and medium-sized cities, which is a very big group. And sometimes they are forgotten amidst the noise of the big capitals. But actually also those SMCs, as we call them, can be very innovative as well, and also are ready to act and address the challenges that we are all facing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Vancluysen. I'll switch back to Turkish with your permission to conclude our session. Değerli izleyicilerimiz,
Distinguished audience, before I end the session, I encourage myself to speak on behalf of you, and I'd like to thank each and every speaker that we had today. In the same manner, with their permission, I'd like to speak on their behalf, and on their behalf, I'd like to thank the audience. Throughout the session, there has been simultaneous interpretation, and I'd like to thank our interpreters. And finally, as it was in MARUF19, MARUF21 has been put together by Marmara Union of Municipality with, and they have basically a lot of effort behind this. And until we see each other in MARUF 2023, I adjourn the session.